He bought Apache girls just to set them free, but fate led them to marriage. Wild West story. Samuel, a tall and rugged trader with a kind heart, rode slowly along the dusty trail. His horse, a sturdy brown mare named Daisy, trotted steadily, aware of the long journey ahead. Samuel had been traveling for weeks, moving from town to town, trading goods, helping those in need when he could. Yet this trip was different. He had heard whispers of girls being held in a distant settlement, far from their homes, taken from their families and sold to strangers. The thought troubled him deeply. He tightened his grip on the reins and thought of the stories he had heard in the small towns along the way. People spoke of girls taken from their Apache villages, forced into servitude, their voices silenced by fear and despair. Samuel had spent his life helping people, but he had never come across something that stirred him so strongly. He knew he had to see it with his own eyes before deciding what to do. After several days of travel, the landscape began to change. The flat plains gave way to rocky hills and scattered trees. The air grew cooler, and Samuel could hear the distant rush of a small river. Somewhere beyond the hills, he was told, the girls were being held. He had little information, just a rough description of the settlement and the number of girls, but he trusted his instincts. He slowed Daisy's pace, careful not to attract attention, and observed the surroundings. By late afternoon, Samuel reached the edge of a small town tucked into a valley. The buildings were simple and worn, their wooden walls weathered by the sun and wind. Smoke rose from chimneys, and the faint sound of children playing carried through the air. But Samuel's eyes were not on the lively town. He focused on a fenced area behind one of the larger buildings, a place that seemed more guarded than the rest. From a distance, he could see them, 3 young girls, sitting quietly, their hands bound and eyes filled with fear. His heart ached at the sight. They were so young, no older than 12 or 13, yet they carried a weight far beyond their years. Their clothes were tattered, and the dirt on their skin told a story of long days spent in confinement. Samuel dismounted quietly and tied Daisy to a post, trying to remain unseen. He watched for a while, noting the movements of the guards. They were careless, confident that no one would intervene, but Samuel had faced danger before. He had traveled dangerous trails, confronted outlaws, and helped people escape impossible situations. He knew he had to act carefully. After observing for what felt like hours, Samuel approached the fence, keeping low and using the cover of trees and rocks. His mind raced with plans. He had brought enough money to pay for some supplies, but freeing the girls would require more than coins. He needed courage, patience, and trust. Samuel's eyes met the gaze of one of the girls. For a brief moment, fear and hope collided in her eyes. She did not speak, but the look was enough. Samuel nodded slightly, silently telling her that help had come. The next morning, Samuel returned with coins and a firm resolve. He approached the guards openly this time, showing no fear. "I want to buy the girls," he said, his voice calm but determined. The guards laughed at first, thinking he was joking or bluffing. "Do you know what you're asking?" one of them sneered. "These girls aren't free. They belong to the town now. You can't just take them." Samuel's hands rested on the sides of his coat, steady and confident. "I don't care what anyone says. I will pay, and they will go with me. No one has the right to keep them against their will." His words were simple, but they carried the weight of truth. The guards exchanged glances, unsure how to respond to a man so calm yet so firm. After tense moments, they finally agreed, taking the coins Samuel offered. The transaction was brief, but it felt monumental. The girls were now free, not just from chains but from the fear that had haunted them for months. Samuel knelt down to meet them at eye level. "You're safe now," he said softly. At first the girls did not respond, unsure if this freedom was real or just another trick. But as Samuel untied their bindings, their eyes widened, and tears began to form. Freedom was a feeling they had almost forgotten, and now it was finally theirs. Samuel offered his hand, and after a moment of hesitation, the eldest girl took it. The others followed, slowly gaining trust. Their journey did not end here. Samuel knew the girls could not stay in the town. Danger still lurked and their families were far away. He promised to take them to a safe place where they could begin new lives, lives filled with hope instead of fear. Along the way, he shared stories of the world beyond the hills, of towns where people treated each other with respect and kindness, and of the beauty of freedom that everyone deserved. The girls listened, their eyes shining with curiosity and a spark of hope. As they traveled, Samuel faced many challenges. The trail was rough, the weather unpredictable, and wild animals roamed freely. But he never let the girls feel unsafe. He set up camp each night, teaching them how to stay warm, how to find clean water, and how to remain vigilant. Slowly, the girls began to trust him completely. They laughed at small jokes, shared stories of their lives before being captured, and even taught Samuel about Apache traditions. Each day brought them closer, not as a man and girls he had rescued, but as companions on a journey of survival and rediscovery. One evening, as they sat by the campfire, Samuel watched the flames dance in the girls' eyes. He realized that saving them was more than an act of kindness. It was a responsibility he had chosen willingly. The girls were brave, resilient, and wise beyond their years. They had endured suffering that no child should face, yet they still smiled, still hoped. Samuel felt a profound respect for them, understanding that their freedom was not just his gift, but also their courage and strength. By the time they reached the edge of a safe settlement, the girls had transformed. Their fear had been replaced with cautious confidence, and their silence with stories and laughter. Samuel knew this was only the beginning of their journey. The road ahead would not always be easy, but together, they had already faced more than most people could imagine. He had bought their freedom, but what truly mattered was the trust, hope, and bond that had grown between them. And so, under the vast sky of the Wild West, a journey of rescue, friendship, and new beginnings had begun. Samuel had acted out of compassion, but he had gained much more in return: a sense of purpose, a connection that transcended circumstance, and the knowledge that one act of courage could change many lives forever. The girls, once prisoners of fate, were now free to choose their path, guided by the kindness of a man who saw not just captives, but people deserving of love, respect, and hope. The morning sun bathed the plains in a warm, golden glow as Samuel led the girls away from the town that had held them captive. The air was filled with birdsong, but Samuel hardly noticed. His focus was on the girls, who walked close together, still cautious and quiet, though their eyes no longer carried the same fear from yesterday. They were free now, but freedom came with uncertainty, and Samuel knew that the journey ahead would test them all. Their path took them through rolling hills and dense groves of trees, the kind that offered shade from the relentless sun and protection from wandering predators. Samuel moved steadily, stopping often to let the girls rest or to point out edible plants and clean streams. At first, they were hesitant to drink from the streams or gather fruits, unfamiliar with the land and unsure of what was safe. Samuel patiently showed them, explaining each plant, each bend in the river, and each animal's trail. Slowly, they began to trust him not only with their safety but with knowledge. The journey was not easy. Wild animals roamed freely, from wolves hunting in packs to snakes hidden beneath the rocks. Samuel kept the girls close, teaching them simple rules: stay together, don't touch unknown plants, and always keep an eye on your surroundings. Each lesson was a reminder that the world was beautiful but also dangerous, and that understanding it could make them stronger. The girls listened intently, their fear gradually giving way to curiosity. By the third day, the girls began to share stories of their lives before captivity. The eldest, a girl named Ayana, spoke of her village nestled among the mountains, where her family lived in harmony with the land. She described ceremonies, songs, and dances that celebrated the seasons, and Samuel listened with fascination. He had heard of Apache traditions but never experienced them firsthand. Each story painted vivid pictures in his mind: families gathering around fires, children laughing as they ran through meadows, elders sharing wisdom beneath star-filled skies. The younger girls, Nijoni and Kaya, shared their memories as well. Nijoni spoke of her love for painting the rocks near her home with natural colors, creating pictures that told stories of the animals and spirits around them. Kaya recalled the taste of fresh corn roasted over an open fire, the smell of wildflowers in the morning, and the songs her mother would hum to lull her to sleep. Listening to these stories, Samuel realized how much had been stolen from them, but he also saw their resilience, the way they clung to memories of beauty even in the face of suffering. As the days passed, the girls became more comfortable with Samuel's presence. They laughed at his clumsy attempts to mimic their dances, teased him gently when he mispronounced their words, and even began to help with small chores during their stops. Samuel found joy in their growing trust and happiness. He had not only freed them physically, but was also helping them rediscover the simple joys of life. One afternoon, as they rested by a clear, flowing river, a sudden noise startled them. A pack of wild coyotes emerged from the nearby brush, their eyes fixed on the travelers. Samuel acted quickly, placing himself between the girls and the animals. He raised his voice and clapped loudly, frightening the coyotes just enough to make them retreat. The girls watched in awe, realizing that Samuel was not only kind but also brave and capable. It was a moment that strengthened their trust in him. They could rely on him when danger arose. Evenings were spent around a small campfire, the flames dancing and casting warm light on their faces. Samuel taught them how to cook simple meals using what they found in nature: roots, berries, and small fish from the river. The girls, initially timid, soon became skilled at helping, and laughter often filled the air as they shared stories or sang soft songs. These nights became moments of bonding, where the walls of fear and distrust slowly crumbled. Samuel learned about their personalities, their hopes, and even their quiet fears. In turn, he shared stories of his travels, of towns far away, of people he had helped, and of his own dreams. Despite the joy, the journey was not without hardship. Rainstorms soaked their clothes and extinguished their fire, leaving them shivering in the cold night air. One night, a sudden storm forced them to take shelter under a rocky overhang. The wind howled and rain poured in torrents, but Samuel kept the girls close, covering them with blankets and sharing his coat to keep them warm. That night, as thunder rolled across the hills, the girls clung to Samuel, not out of fear alone, but because they knew he would not let harm come to them. It was a lesson in resilience, in how trust and courage could carry them through even the darkest nights. On the seventh day, they reached a wide, open meadow. It was unlike anything the girls had seen in captivity, vast, green, and alive with birds and flowers. Samuel let them run freely, laughing as they chased butterflies and picked wildflowers. Their laughter echoed across the meadow, a sound so pure that it lifted Samuel's own spirits. He watched them and realized that this journey was changing not only the girls but himself as well. He had set out to free them, but in the process, he had found joy, purpose, and a deep sense of connection. During their travels, Samuel also took time to teach the girls practical skills for survival. He showed them how to identify tracks of animals, how to make simple tools from wood and stone, and how to move silently through the forest. These lessons were not just about survival, they were about empowerment. The girls were learning to navigate the world with confidence, to trust their own instincts, and to feel capable of facing challenges independently. With each day, they grew stronger, not just physically but emotionally and mentally. One evening, as they sat by another small river, Iana turned to Samuel. "Thank you," she said softly. "You didn't have to help us, and yet you did. I don't know how to say it, but I feel like I can breathe again." Samuel smiled, his heart warmed by her words. "You don't need to thank me," he replied. "You've always had the strength inside you. I only helped you see it." The girls nodded, understanding that their freedom was not just a gift from Samuel, but also a recognition of their own courage and resilience. The journey was also a journey of discovery for Samuel. He learned about Apache beliefs, their respect for nature, and their values of family and community. He admired the girls' connection to the land, their wisdom beyond their years, and the way they faced hardship with quiet dignity. It was a perspective that made him reflect on his own life, on the people he had helped, and on the importance of compassion. By the time they approached the outskirts of a safer settlement, the girls were no longer timid and scared. They walked with confidence, their heads held high, their eyes bright with curiosity and hope. Samuel had guided them through danger and hardship, but the girls had also guided him, showing him the power of resilience, trust, and courage. Together, they had traveled across a harsh and beautiful landscape, facing challenges that would have broken many, yet emerging stronger and more connected than ever. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with shades of pink and purple, Samuel looked at the girls and felt a sense of pride and deep respect. They were free now, truly free, but more than that, they had rediscovered joy, strength, and hope. Their journey was far from over, but they had proven to themselves, and to Samuel, that they could face whatever came next. That night, under a blanket of stars, Samuel and the girls camped near a quiet stream. The air was cool, and the sound of water flowing over rocks was soothing. The girls huddled close to the fire, talking quietly among themselves. Samuel listened, feeling a quiet contentment. He knew that their bond was growing stronger every day, a bond built on trust, kindness, and shared experience. He had freed them, yes, but in return they had freed a part of him as well, the part that longed to make a difference, to protect, and to connect with others on a deep human level. The Wild West was vast and unpredictable, filled with beauty and danger alike. But Samuel had shown the girls, and himself, that courage, compassion, and determination could guide them through even the most challenging paths. And as the fire crackled and the stars shone above, the promise of new beginnings filled the air, carrying with it hope, friendship, and the certainty that the journey they had begun together was only the start of something extraordinary. The settlement they reached was small but welcoming. Wooden homes with thatched roofs lined the dusty streets, and smoke curled gently from chimneys. Farmers tended to their fields, and children ran and played in open spaces. It was a peaceful place, a stark contrast to the dangerous trails and fear-filled towns the girls had encountered before. Samuel led the girls through the settlement carefully, wanting them to feel safe and at ease. Their journey had been long and tiring, but he knew this place could be the beginning of a new life. At first, the townspeople watched the newcomers with cautious curiosity. A man with kind eyes and 3 girls, all carrying stories of hardship, drew attention naturally. Some were skeptical, having heard many tales of travelers who claimed good intentions but were not always true to their word. Others were simply intrigued, wondering why Samuel had taken the effort to bring the girls here. But Samuel did not mind. He believed that actions spoke louder than words, and he intended to show the people of the settlement that the girls were to be treated with respect, care, and dignity. Samuel quickly found a modest cabin for them to stay in. It was small but clean, with enough space for the girls to move freely and for him to help them settle in. The walls were bare, but Samuel promised them they could decorate it however they liked. The girls were shy at first, exploring the space with quiet steps, touching the wooden walls and the simple furniture, marveling at the small comforts that had been missing from their lives. Samuel encouraged them gently, giving them a sense of control and choice over their new environment. He began teaching them practical skills for daily life in the settlement. Samuel showed them how to prepare simple meals, plant vegetables in small gardens, and collect fresh water safely. He explained how to tend to the animals and care for their living space, but he did not rush them. Each lesson was slow and patient, allowing the girls to learn at their own pace. At night, he would sit with them, answering questions and listening to their stories about their families, their village, and the life they had known before captivity. Each story brought laughter, tears, and a deeper understanding of who they were. The settlement was not without challenges. Some townspeople whispered about the girls' past, questioning whether they would fit into the community. Samuel faced these doubts with patience and quiet determination, speaking gently on behalf of the girls and demonstrating their trustworthiness through action rather than argument. The girls, in turn, began to adapt to their new environment. They learned the value of hard work, the importance of helping others, and the power of patience. Slowly, the town began to accept them, noticing the girls' resilience, kindness, and willingness to contribute. Gianna, the eldest girl, showed a natural talent for teaching. She began helping Samuel in small ways, showing the younger girls how to garden, cook, and even mend clothing. Her patience and wisdom became evident to everyone, and townspeople started to see her as a young leader. Nijoni, who loved painting, decorated their cabin with colorful drawings of the landscapes they had passed and the animals they had seen. Her artwork brought smiles to Samuel's face and caught the attention of other villagers, who admired her creativity. Kaya, the youngest, displayed a natural curiosity about everything. She asked questions about the land, the animals, and the stars, often prompting Samuel to share knowledge and stories that deepened their bond. Despite their growing comfort, life in the settlement was not without obstacles. One day, a group of traders arrived, seeking to buy supplies and looking for easy profit. When they learned about the girls' past, some made insinuations, hinting that they could be of use in ways the girls could not accept. Samuel intervened firmly, standing between the traders and the girls. His calm yet determined words left no room for misunderstanding. The girls were free, and their dignity was not for sale. The traders, realizing Samuel's unwavering stance, left without causing further trouble. This incident strengthened the girls' confidence, teaching them that courage and a firm voice could protect them from harm. Over time, Samuel encouraged the girls to embrace their culture and traditions. He learned from them about Apache ceremonies, songs, and stories, and together they celebrated small festivals that reminded them of home. These moments were filled with music, laughter, and sometimes tears, as the girls honored their past while moving forward into a new chapter. Samuel participated eagerly, learning dances and songs, and often marveling at the depth of wisdom and beauty in their traditions. Through this, the girls felt that they could honor their heritage while also adapting to life in the settlement. As the seasons changed, the bond between Samuel and the girls deepened. He came to respect their strength and resilience even more, recognizing that they had survived hardships that would have broken many others. They, in turn, admired his patience, kindness, and the quiet bravery he displayed every day. A subtle sense of connection began to grow, not born of obligation, but of mutual respect and shared experiences. Samuel had set out to protect them, but over time, he realized that he was learning as much from them as they were from him. Samuel also helped the girls build practical independence. He encouraged them to run errands in the settlement, meet neighbors, and even trade small goods. These experiences taught the girls confidence, responsibility, and the value of being seen as equals rather than as helpless victims. Each successful task brought smiles and laughter, and gradually, they began to feel like they truly belonged in this community. Samuel watched with pride as the girls learned to navigate life with both caution and courage, always mindful of their past, but unafraid to embrace the present. One crisp autumn morning, Samuel and the girls decided to visit the nearby forest. The trees were tall, their leaves turning golden and red, and the air was filled with the scent of pine and earth. The girls collected herbs, observed wildlife, and even tried fishing in the stream. Samuel taught them how to move quietly through the forest, respecting the animals and the land. The girls laughed when he stumbled over roots or misjudged the speed of a rabbit, and Samuel joined in, realizing that these moments of joy were just as important as the lessons themselves. By winter, the girls had grown strong and independent. They could cook, tend to the garden, care for animals, and even negotiate small trades with the townspeople. Samuel had become not just a protector but a mentor and friend. Their cabin, once a simple shelter, now felt like home, filled with laughter, music, and the warmth of shared stories. The girls had transformed from frightened captives into confident young women, capable of facing the world on their own terms. During this time, a subtle change began in the relationship between Samuel and the eldest girls. While they respected him for his courage and guidance, a new feeling began to emerge, a quiet bond of affection that neither had expected. It was not love in the way they had seen in stories, but a deep appreciation for each other's courage, kindness, and strength. Samuel noticed the way Ayana's eyes brightened when he praised her work, or how Najoni's laughter seemed to echo a little longer when he smiled at her drawings. These small moments planted the seeds of connection, gentle and natural, growing alongside trust and friendship. Despite the calm, challenges still arose. One day, news came of a nearby settlement being attacked by outlaws. Samuel prepared the girls for the possibility of danger, teaching them how to stay safe and alert. They practiced moving quietly, recognizing signs of danger, and finding safe spots to hide if needed. The girls were not afraid, for they had learned from Samuel that courage was not the absence of fear, but the strength to act despite it. The threat passed without incident, but the lesson stayed with them, reinforcing the skills and confidence they had gained. By spring, life in the settlement had settled into a rhythm. The girls had friends among the townspeople, shared laughter with children in the streets, and even assisted in community tasks. Samuel continued to guide them, but he also allowed them space to grow independently, knowing that their freedom meant they had the right to make choices for themselves. The girls had not only survived but had begun to thrive, carrying forward the lessons of resilience, trust, and compassion that Samuel had instilled in them. And so, the girls built a new life in the settlement, blending the wisdom and traditions of their past with the practical skills and opportunities of their present. Samuel watched proudly, knowing that his journey to rescue them had led to something far greater than freedom alone. It had led to a new beginning, a life filled with hope, independence, and the promise of happiness. Together, they had faced challenges, learned, grown, and discovered the strength of the human spirit. Life in the settlement had settled into a comfortable rhythm, but Samuel and the girls knew that peace could be fragile in the Wild West. Though the town was quiet most days, there were always whispers of trouble on the horizon. Samuel remained vigilant, teaching the girls how to stay aware of their surroundings and how to handle unexpected challenges. Over time, the girls had grown confident and capable, but Samuel also knew that life would continue to test their courage in ways they could not yet imagine. One day, as they were working in their small garden, a traveler rode into the settlement. He was a tall man with a rugged hat, dusty boots, and a look of both curiosity and caution in his eyes. He carried news from a nearby town. Bandits had been spotted moving through the area, stealing supplies and threatening settlers. Samuel listened carefully, noting the direction they had come from and the path the bandits might take. Though there was no immediate danger, He knew it was a reminder that the world outside their small haven remained unpredictable and sometimes cruel. The girls, sensing Samuel's concern, gathered around him. Iana asked softly, "Do we need to leave?" Samuel shook his head. "Not yet," he said. "We will be careful and prepared, but we will not let fear take our freedom from us. We have learned to face challenges, and we will do so together." His words were reassuring, yet filled with authority. The girls nodded, understanding that courage was not about avoiding danger but standing strong in the face of it. In the weeks that followed, Samuel and the girls worked to strengthen their home and their skills. They reinforced the cabin, improved the garden, and learned how to protect themselves if needed. Samuel also continued to teach the girls about the wider world, sharing stories of distant towns, rivers, mountains, and forests. The girls listened intently, fascinated by the possibilities that lay beyond their small settlement. Though they had been through so much, the world no longer felt frightening. It felt full of opportunity, wonder, and hope. As they spent more time together, a quiet change began to grow in the bond between Samuel and the eldest girls. The feelings were subtle at first, unspoken but undeniable. Gianna would sometimes linger when talking to Samuel, their hands brushing as they worked together in the garden. Nijoni would smile at him in ways that went beyond friendship, sharing private jokes or showing him her drawings before anyone else could see them. Even Kaya, though younger, sensed the special connection, and her laughter would sometimes echo in the cabin when Samuel entered the room. Samuel noticed these small signs as well. He found himself pausing to watch them, not out of suspicion or ownership, but because he genuinely cared for their happiness. He admired their strength, their intelligence, and their kindness. He realized that what had begun as a mission to free them had transformed into something more profound, a bond of mutual respect, affection, and admiration. Samuel understood that life had a way of guiding people to unexpected places, and in this case, fate had brought them together in a way that went beyond mere chance. Despite the calm, life in the settlement brought new challenges. Some townspeople began to gossip about the girls and Samuel's close relationship with them. Though the whispers were quiet, they carried the potential to create tension. Samuel faced these murmurs with patience and quiet confidence, showing the community through his actions that the girls were independent, respected, and free to make their own choices. The girls, in turn, handled the situation with grace, proving their capability and earning the respect of the settlement. Around this time, a local festival was approaching, a celebration of spring, with music, dancing, and food shared among neighbors. Samuel encouraged the girls to participate, helping them prepare and even teaching them new songs and dances. At the festival, the girls moved confidently among the townspeople, sharing laughter and stories, and demonstrating the strength and resilience that had carried them this far. Samuel watched proudly as others admired the girls not just for their past or their beauty, but for their courage, intelligence, and kindness. During the festival, a small incident occurred that tested their unity and courage. A group of strangers arrived in town, questioning the girls' past and trying to provoke trouble. Samuel stepped forward calmly, speaking firmly to the strangers and protecting the girls. The townspeople watched in awe as he handled the situation with a mix of authority and respect. The strangers, realizing they could not intimidate Samuel or the girls, left quietly. The incident reinforced the girls' confidence and deepened their trust in Samuel, showing them that courage, honesty, and standing firm could overcome intimidation and fear. As days turned into weeks, the bond between Samuel and the girls continued to grow. Their relationship evolved naturally, moving from trust and friendship into a deeper connection. Samuel realized he felt a sense of affection that he had never expected, a quiet admiration that went beyond the responsibility of keeping them safe. Gianna and Nijoni, in their own ways, recognized their feelings as well, respect and gratitude evolving into something more profound, gentle, and meaningful. One evening, while sitting by the fire after a long day, Samuel noticed the girls talking quietly among themselves. Their conversation was soft, filled with laughter and moments of reflection. Iana glanced at Samuel and smiled, her eyes reflecting the firelight. "Samuel," she said gently, "we are grateful for everything you have done. But it is not just about what you did for us. It is also about how you have cared for us. You have made our lives full again." Samuel felt warmth in his heart, realizing that the connection they shared had grown into something neither of them could ignore. As the season changed and the days grew warmer, Samuel began to notice small changes in his own feelings. He found joy not only in guiding and protecting the girls, but also in their presence, their laughter, and their smiles. He realized that fate had not only led him to free them, but had brought him into a bond of companionship, mutual respect, and affection. It was a connection built slowly, nurtured by trust, care, and shared experiences of hardship and triumph. One morning, Samuel and the girls received news of a nearby river being flooded, threatening some farms in the region. Samuel decided they would help, both as a practical contribution to the community and as a lesson in resilience for the girls. Together, they traveled to the affected farms, working alongside neighbors to build temporary barriers, save livestock, and protect crops. The girls, confident and capable, demonstrated the skills Samuel had taught them, and their efforts earned admiration from the townspeople. Samuel watched with pride as they moved seamlessly between hard work and gentle care, their spirits unbroken and their courage evident. The shared experiences of helping others, facing challenges, and celebrating small victories strengthened the bond between Samuel and the girls. They began to understand that life was not only about survival, but also about connection, compassion, and the quiet power of shared efforts. Samuel felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that he had guided the girls not just to freedom, but to a life of purpose, independence, and dignity. At the same time, the girls' feelings toward Samuel continued to grow in quiet, gentle ways. They noticed the small gestures of care he showed, checking if they were comfortable, sharing food, or simply listening to their stories. These acts of kindness, combined with his bravery and patience, fostered feelings of respect and admiration that slowly evolved into affection. It was a bond built on equality, trust, and shared experiences, rather than obligation or dependency. Towards the end of the season, a quiet evening found Samuel and the girls walking along a small path that led to a hill overlooking the settlement. The sun was setting, casting warm shades of orange and pink across the sky. Samuel paused, watching the girls laugh and enjoy the view. Yana turned to him and said softly, "Life feels different now. We are safe, happy, and free, thanks to you." Samuel smiled, feeling a mixture of humility and affection. "No," he replied gently, "we found this together. You have been brave, strong, and wise. I only helped you see it." It was in these quiet moments, away from the bustle of daily life, that the depth of their connection became most apparent. Trust, respect, and admiration had grown into a subtle but undeniable bond. Samuel realized that the girls were no longer just those he had rescued. They were companions, friends, and, in some ways, the family he had always sought but never found. Iana and Nijoni, too, recognized the strength of their feelings, though neither spoke openly. It was enough to know that their hearts were quietly aligned, guided by the experiences they had shared and the hardships they had overcome. As night fell, the settlement glowed with the warmth of lanterns and fires. Samuel and the girls returned home, their hearts full of hope and quiet joy. They had faced challenges together, grown stronger, and discovered bonds that were deeper than words could express. Fate, it seemed, had led them not only to freedom and safety, but to one another, forging connections that could endure even the harshest trials of the Wild West. The seasons had changed again, and the settlement was alive with the warmth of early summer. The fields were green, flowers blossomed in every corner, and the air carried the scents of fresh herbs and wildflowers. Life had settled into a rhythm for Samuel and the girls, a rhythm filled with work, laughter, and moments of quiet reflection. The journey that had begun with fear and uncertainty had transformed into one of growth, trust, and deep connection. Samuel often reflected on how far they had all come. The girls, once frightened and unsure, now moved with confidence and joy, and he himself had found purpose and companionship he had never imagined. Over time, the subtle feelings that had grown between Samuel and the girls evolved naturally into something undeniable. What had started as respect and gratitude had blossomed into a quiet, tender affection. Samuel noticed it in the way Ayana's eyes shone when she laughed, or the gentle way Najoni would reach for his advice before anyone else's. The girls, too, felt it in the moments when Samuel listened patiently, encouraged them, or simply shared in their joy. It was a bond neither of them could ignore, one that had been nurtured through hardship, shared triumphs, and countless small acts of kindness. One afternoon, Samuel took the girls to the hill overlooking the settlement, the place where they had first reflected on their journey together months ago. The wind was gentle, carrying the scent of wildflowers and fresh earth. Samuel looked at them and said softly, "I have watched you grow, seen your courage, and shared in your laughter. I cannot imagine life without you." Ayana and Najoni exchanged glances, understanding in silence what their hearts had already felt for some time. Samuel's words were not demands or expectations. They were an honest expression of his feelings, grounded in respect and admiration. The girls smiled, and the warmth of the moment was enough to solidify what had been quietly growing between them. It was not an impulsive love, nor one born of obligation, but a deep connection forged through shared experiences, trust, and mutual respect. Samuel realized that life had led them together in ways neither could have predicted. What had begun as a mission to save them from captivity had turned into a story of love, partnership, and shared purpose. As the days passed, Samuel began preparing for a new chapter in their lives. He spoke with the town's elders and neighbors, sharing his intentions and asking for their support. The community, who had watched the girls grow into strong, capable young women, offered their blessings. They had witnessed Samuel's dedication, the girls' resilience, and the quiet bond that had formed between them. It was a union that reflected courage, compassion, and the values the settlement held dear. The preparations for the marriage were simple but heartfelt. The cabin was decorated with wildflowers from the fields, and the girls contributed their own touches, Najoni with her paintings, Ayana with handmade ornaments, and Kaya with her laughter and enthusiasm. The townspeople came together to celebrate, bringing food, music, and joy. It was not just a ceremony of union, but a celebration of resilience, freedom, and the enduring strength of human connection. On the day of the ceremony, Samuel stood quietly, watching the girls prepare. Their faces were bright with excitement, and yet there was a quiet serenity that came from knowing they were taking this step willingly and happily. Samuel felt a mixture of pride, love, and humility. He remembered the day he had first freed them, the long journey through wild forests and hills, the nights around campfires filled with stories and laughter, and the months of rebuilding their lives. Every challenge, every moment of trust had led them to this day. The ceremony itself was simple but deeply meaningful. Under the shade of a large oak tree, with sunlight filtering through its branches, Samuel and the girls exchanged vows of commitment and respect. Their words spoke of friendship, trust, love, and a promise to face life's challenges together. The townspeople watched with joy, understanding that this was a union born not just of affection but of shared experiences, mutual respect, and the courage to embrace life fully. The girls, once captive and uncertain, now stood proud, confident, and joyful. Samuel, who had once been a lone traveler, found a family and purpose he had never anticipated. After the ceremony, the celebration continued into the evening. Music filled the air, and children danced around the fire while adults shared food and stories. Samuel and the girls moved among their friends, laughing, dancing, and embracing the joy of the moment. It was a day that reflected not only love and union, but also the triumph of courage, compassion, and determination. The journey from captivity to freedom, from fear to confidence, had led them to a life full of possibilities, and the settlement had become a place of warmth, safety, and community. In the days that followed, Samuel and the girls worked together to build a home that reflected their shared lives. They combined practical skills, cultural traditions, and creativity, creating a space filled with comfort, beauty, and love. Yana continued to teach and guide. Nijoni brought color and imagination to their surroundings, and Kaya's curiosity and energy kept their spirits light. Samuel contributed his knowledge, experience, and steady presence, ensuring that their home was both safe and welcoming. Together, they formed a family rooted in respect, equality, and affection. Life was not without challenges, of course. There were occasional storms, the unpredictability of the wilderness, and the continued need to maintain their home and garden. But the lessons learned on their journey, resilience, courage, and cooperation, served them well. Samuel and the girls faced each obstacle together, supporting each other, learning from each experience, and growing stronger as a family. Their bond was no longer just emotional. It was a partnership built on shared values, trust, and the understanding that life's challenges were easier when faced together. As the years passed, their story became known throughout the surrounding areas. Travelers would sometimes stop to hear the tale of the kind trader who freed the Apache girls and the journey that led them to marriage and a life of freedom, dignity, and happiness. Samuel often smiled when he heard these stories, knowing that the truth was even more beautiful than the tales told. The story was not just about rescue, it was about courage, compassion, resilience, and the quiet power of human connection. Samuel and the girls, now women who had once been captives, thrived in their home. They celebrated life's small joys, the harvest of the garden, the songs of birds, the laughter of neighbors, and the quiet moments around the fire at night. They shared their knowledge, helped others, and continued to honor their traditions while embracing the opportunities of their new life. Samuel found fulfillment in guiding, supporting, and sharing in their growth, while the girls found happiness in their independence, their achievements, and their shared bond. Even in the quiet moments, their connection remained strong. Samuel would often walk with Ayana and Nijoni through the fields, talking about dreams, memories, and plans for the future. Their conversations were filled with laughter, gentle teasing, and quiet reflections. Kaya, though younger, enjoyed listening and learning from both Samuel and her sisters, adding her own perspective and energy to their lives. These simple, shared experiences reinforced the strength of their relationship and the deep love and respect they had cultivated over years of shared challenges and triumphs. The family also found ways to honor their past. They remembered the villages the girls had come from, the struggles they had endured, and the moments of fear and uncertainty that had marked their early journey. They shared stories of those times with new generations, teaching lessons about courage, compassion, and the importance of freedom. Through these stories, they ensured that the past was acknowledged, not as a source of pain, but as a foundation for growth, understanding, and connection. As Samuel looked at the lives they had built, he realized that the journey had been about far more than rescue or survival. It had been about finding meaning, building trust, creating family, and discovering the transformative power of compassion and love. The girls, once prisoners of circumstance, were now partners in life, capable, confident, and full of hope. Samuel, who had once traveled alone, had found a family and purpose that grounded him and brought joy to his days. In the end, their story became a living testament to the idea that courage, kindness, and determination could shape destinies. They had faced danger, uncertainty, and fear together, and had emerged stronger, wiser, and more connected. Their lives, intertwined by fate and guided by compassion, stood as a reminder that even in the harshest conditions, love, respect, and resilience could lead to happiness and fulfillment. Samuel, Ayanna, Njoni, and Kaya continued to live their days in the settlement, not as people defined by the hardships of the past, but as a family defined by courage, friendship, and enduring love. Together, they nurtured a life of freedom, dignity, and joy, proving that even in the wild and unpredictable West, compassion, determination, and human connection could overcome adversity and create a future full of hope. Their story, whispered among travelers and neighbors, remained a legend, not of conquest or power, but of mercy, fate, and the enduring strength of the human heart.